ship arrives, and the city slams the gates shut. Why exactly 40 days, and who came up with it? In a few minutes, we'll uncover how quarantine was born and what survives today. This is no legend. It was the first medieval lockdown. And the reason for 40 will surprise you more than you think. Let's begin. Open your eyes and imagine a Europe that stops breathing. Streets fall silent, bells ring less often, and the wind carries only a whisper of prayers. We are speaking of the Black Death, the wave of illness that in the middle of the 14th century changed the course of history. In 90 seconds, you will hear the first answer that school summaries leave out. You will see where everyday life cracked and why it was not a punishment from the heavens, but the cost of the networks we ourselves built. It was a bacterial disease, today called plague. Fleas carried it. Contact with the sick spread it too, but above all it was driven by the speed of trade and war. Ships and roads, ports and fairs, warehouses and caravans. The very paths along which wealth flowed became the highway of the pestilence. Autumn, the year 1347. The first outbreaks reached the ports of the Mediterranean Sea, Messina, Genoa, Marseille, then farther north to Bruges, to London, to Lubeck. It was not one single wave, but many fires lit at the same time. When you place the map of trade over the map of deaths, you see the same grid. Nodal places light up like stars at night. If you like facts told cinematically, stay. And now let us focus on life just before the storm. The Middle Ages were not the filth of fairy tales. There were bathhouses, incense, herbs, washing in basins, wool and linen laundered in rivers. The word bacteria was unknown. People spoke of bad air, of miasmas. Shutters were closed, bouquets were hung. Smoke was kindled to chase the sickness away. It was not foolish. It was logical within the knowledge available. Symptoms struck suddenly: fever, chills, aches, then swellings in the groin or under the arms, dark spots on the skin. There was bubonic plague. There was also the pneumonic form, when the sickness attacked breath and killed faster. Septicemia occurred as well. Then the body lost the fight before it could ask for help. Mortality was high, but varied. In cities it was greater. In the countryside it could be lighter. In one house all the candles went out. Next door someone fell ill only mildly. It was not an even darkness, rather a mosaic of pain. How did people respond at first? Prayers, processions, and sometimes the movements of flagellants that passed through the towns of the north. There were darker reflexes too, the search for culprits, accusations against Jews and other minorities. Those are tragedies without justification. Fear can turn people into a crowd, but beside the crowd, administration grew. Towns began to count the dead, to organize burials, to regulate markets, to limit gatherings, to set trading hours. Spring, the year 1348. The pestilence sails from ports into the interior. It travels along river valleys, postal roads, and merchant tracks. Notice that it does not strike everyone the same. It bypasses some regions, hits others with full force. Density, movement, crowding. These are fuels for the fire. Let us pause with medicine. There were no microscopes, no antibiotics, but there was attentiveness. People noticed that contact kills and distance helps. Houses were marked, outbreaks isolated, the dead buried outside the walls. The flow of people and goods was put in order. Physicians, monks, officials, merchants. Each in their way tried to bring order to chaos. The year 1349. The north ripens into fear, the south into exhaustion. And now, the first great spark of hope I promised to tell. In Ragusa, today Dubrovnik, a rule arises that we will call quarantine. 40 days of separation for newcomers before they cross the gates. 40 days of observation on small islands and in isolated anchorages. It is an intuition becoming a rule, and the first great invention of public health. In the next century, Venice will build lazarettos. Other ports will follow this road, and the word 40 will be etched into law for a long time. If what you hear gives you a map and not only fear, press subscribe and the thumbs up. And now we return to the concrete, to the decisions that weighed lives. The pestilence changes the economy. There are not enough hands to work, so those who remain can demand more. Wages rise. Landowners try to stop it. Edicts and statutes appear that attempt to freeze rates. But the market keeps its own rhythm. Empty holdings pass into new hands. Crafts search for apprentices. Towns try to keep markets alive. Though trade slows, in the south, some great houses fall. In the north, new fortunes grow. The map of power changes, though the same coats of arms still hang on the walls. Art answers fear with image. Dances of death, processions of the dead leading people of all estates. Not as horror, rather as a reminder that fragility is shared. In monastic chronicles, you will find tallies of deaths, lists of names, notes on the price of grain, on the hush in the streets. You read them like letters from a front, dry sentences that carry tears. You will sometimes hear the myth of universal filth. The truth is more interesting. Hygiene existed, only it was different. People bathed in bathhouses, though not always daily. Linen was washed, herbs were used, smoke disinfected rooms, fabrics were aired. The beaked masks we link with doctors are a later fashion. In the very middle of the 14th century, they were not everyday reality. Facts are not as flashy as pictures, but they tell the truth better. Let us look into a city home. The mother boils water. The father brings bundles of juniper for fumigation. Children learn not to go out too often. Those with family in the countryside flee. Those without try to endure within the walls. Guards shut the gates after dusk. The magistrate sets the price of bread. Guilds agree who sells when. These are simple, down-to-earth steps. Yet together they make the city able to breathe. You ask if the Black Death was only one. It was not. It returned in waves. The first wave of the middle of the 14th century was the deepest, but later smaller strikes came. Towns learned faster, closed gates earlier, set up isolation wards, kept reserves of fresh timber for coffins, organized burials better, guarded wells. This is not a heroic tale. This is a manual for a world that had just discovered it was connected. Let us leave the street for a moment and go down to the ports. Imagine ships moored at the quays, sailors with fever, stores full of grain, wool, spices. Quarantine rules mean that goods wait. Waiting costs, but it costs less than chaos. In that tension, a new way of thinking is born, that an administrative decision can save thousands, even if it hurts 100 merchants. It is a hard lesson, but that is precisely civilization. There was also a second lesson about information. Rumor kills, information saves. Where a town could write rules and announce them, people wandered less. Where information hid in chambers, chaos was born. Today it sounds obvious. Then it was a discovery. When chroniclers noted that after closing a market for 2 weeks, the wave of illness fell. That was science, even without charts. And now myth versus sources. Not everywhere were witches burned. Not everywhere did panic level streets. Often the most interesting lies between. One town closed its gates and counted the sick. Next door, another let everyone in and paid a higher price. One relied on monasteries, another on guilds, yet another on a council of merchants. This diversity of strategies gives historians priceless comparisons today. We are nearing the moral, but first one more scene. We often skip it, and it changes everything. The silence after the wave. Someone opens a workshop. Someone returns to the kiln. Someone sits down to learn reading. Someone sows in spring. Young trees rise in cemeteries. Colored glass returns to windows. Laughter returns to the market. There are no fanfares, no grand speeches. There is a return to rhythm. Wiser, more careful, more attentive. Now let us arrange the alphabet of survival. First letter, knowledge. Those who count can see. Those who write can remember. Second letter, organization. Gates, trading hours, isolations, reserves, burials beyond the walls. Third letter, communication. Clear rules, not rumors. Fourth letter, community. Only together can we lift a weight that no one can carry alone. Does it matter today? It does, because epidemics are not only biology, they are a test of institutions and character. The Black Death took millions of lives, but it sped the invention of quarantine, strengthened self-government, opened a path to a different labor economy, left a mark in urban law and in art. This is not consolation, this is an obligation. If history rhymes, it asks what we will do earlier and together. Listen to the silence for a moment more. You will hear not only fear, but determination. Fear is sudden, wisdom is stubborn. Those who win are not the ones who shout the loudest, but those who can earliest count risk, set rules, and care for one another. That is the most important lesson of that wave. If this story was a map through the dark for you, click subscribe. You will come back for further chapters of the medieval world told like a film. Leave a like if you want more stories that explain the present, and in a comment write one word that stays with you. Knowledge, organization, or community. Now, as the dust settles, look once more at the map of Europe and see how much the world can change when we learn together and in time.